Yeah, I really like this office chair I bought because it's like, you got those gamer chairs. Do you have
I
one?
got one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They're all pieces of shit. They're like the same damn. They're like the same one. So, but from the same Chinese company, they're like different ones, and then
and they
they're
all
like,
look different, but they're the
yeah,
same damn
they
chair.
look cool, and they're shit.
They're not comfortable at all.
Yeah.
You got about an hour, and after about an hour, you're like, my ass is numb and hurts, and you stand up, and the inside of the seat looks like a pack of Coke cans because of the springs and shit in it. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's just And so one of the things when I went and redid my setup, that was one of the first things I did, and I watched. I think Jay 2 Cents is like he's like with Linus Tech Tips and stuff. One of those guys that just kind of does computer shit. And they're talking about office chairs. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get us one of these. And so I bought a cheap end. I don't know what the fuck the actual name of it is, but it was about $270. Best chair I've ever had. It don't like when you sit in it. It's like it don't feel like, man, this is gonna be a high quality chair. But then you're like 2 hours later, you get up and you haven't noticed you sat down. I was like, oh, this is the
That's
thing.
what you want.
Yeah.
That gaming, I think mine's like Killer B, I think, or something that makes it or something. But it is uncomfortable as hell after an hour. You're just like, God damn it, I can't feel my asshole anymore.
So it's been a minute since we've done it. So, but you can catch our podcasts on Spotify. So we haven't done any since September's last one he done, and I'm gonna do a quick shout out if I can find it pretty quickly. My friend Buzz is doing a podcast, and this is a crazy right ring conspiracy podcast. Project Northwood Radio, and you can get it on BitChute. And I had to sign up to BitChute so I could be his only sub, and then I'm sitting there and listening to this damn crazy ass shit. Because you can say what the hell you want on BitChute.
Yeah.
But sitting there listening to that shit, and it's like, I can't even get through the fucking thing because BitChute's damn bit rate is so terrible, whatever, their damn bandwidth, but you just fucking keep getting canceled out. I'm like, come on, boys, you can do better than that. But I had it's a lot of fun. Eddie's been on there, which is people listening to this podcast probably have heard Eddie, the Lizard King, give his conspiracy right-wing bullshit. But we got a lot to catch up with because we've been here talking about bullshit in a hot minute. So I guess the first thing I on the list is to talk about the new consoles because they're now out. Because we spent a good, we like for months we were talking about.
We were still speculating on price. I think last time.
Yeah.
Of like what they were going to be. I don't think Sony had released their price point yet.
I figured that they were going to be hot. I did not figure that they were going to be nearly impossible to find.
PS5s are still hard to find.
Yeah.
Like crazy. I was trying to think how many I've seen because like I go to stores regularly, but I was like
You ain't going to see one in a store.
You don't really see one. And then the whole thing about Walmart's like, well, they got them in the back, but they can't sell them because they're selling them online. It's like that's weird, but I'm sure they have a reason for it.
Yeah, big dicks. Sony wanted specifically to avoid COVID type shit where people getting in the lines. They might have had enough pull on the retailers to make that happen.
Short supply.
Yeah. The word on the street is, and I don't have any evidence to back this up. This is what I heard is that there's double the PlayStations being made as opposed to Xboxes, and then there's they might have their own factory just cracking them out faster,
throwing them out.
Right now, it's literally to the point where if you can get it out, you can meet demand. You're going to be the one that's winning, and it's like they're winning in that regard. And on eBay. There's a different price difference. There's like you can get probably an Xbox Series X for around $700 or so. Right now, it's more like $800 for
the PS5.
Yeah, and it might be like $800 just for the digital.
It's up there. Like it's like if you keep an eye out, you can find one. From what I understand, like you can find, but you have to like be adamant about trying to track one down.
It's my new guy at work. He's managed to. I don't know if he got them yet. He's managed to buy two though, and there's like a little. Walmart will give you like a huge ass window. They'll say, "Oh, we're gonna give it to you in like a month or two." It's like, no, you'll get it faster than that. It's just they're just covering their own ass because it might just be delayed from shipping. Mm-hmm. And what he did was it wasn't a straight bot, but he had it where. It was like a plug-in or something, and you could get that shit and put it on Firefox or Opera or Chrome, and it fills in your information for you.
Yeah.
And you can also, and it also was able to force the add to cart or the buy button onto the screen. It forces it on there, so you're not having to wait for some feedback. You're getting just false positives or whatever. But, and, he was able to get, so he's gotten 2. And then my friend Drew, he had to get the, he lucked out at GameStop and it was given an Xbox for lunch. He got it for lunch, and then but he had to buy the big
the bundle.
Yeah, and he does like to play 2K a little bit, but you know he had to pay like $800 or whatever. You gotta pay that the GameStop finder's fee to get shit that you may or may not want
it now or you want it later. Take your pick.
And you know, I was able to get a new computer, so I got the new 5900X Ryzen, and I got a 3070 video card by going to Micro Center. It's like literally you could go to Micro Center, you could wait in line. It's kind of a roll of the dice of when because they're not going to tell you when the fuck they're going to have that shit. You're not going to answer the phones. You're like, don't call these motherfuckers. You literally show up like you're a homeless bum. Jay and Silent Bob, you're hanging out in front of the damn store, and then you know when they get a card in, you could get it.
It's like if you're here at the right time, you got one.
Yeah.
You better be here at the right time.
They got right now. They got in 6900s yesterday. The 6900 is the XT is the biggest AMD card. It's not an equivalent to a 3090, but it's what they've got, and it's supposed to be $1,000. So they got in 20 of these damn things at $1,800 a piece. And so right now, we could stop this podcast right now, man. We could go up to Marietta and you know pay $1,800 and get the biggest dickest card.
It'd be like the biggest dickest card. It's only like $2,000 after tax, and, you know, like. But it'll play, you know, Diablo 2 Zael.
It'll play. Yeah, I've played more Diablo 2 on this new computer than anything else. The problem is with AMD is they still don't have ray tracing. Resident Evil 8's the first game. We'll talk about that in a second. There's a program called DLSS. I need to show you that shit. It's basically like a special renderer, a post-processing renderer. You're playing it. You're rendering the game in a lower resolution than you're displaying it on, and it's magic from what it is. I was able to get, even with a 3070, I was able to get control with all the ray tracing bullshit on and everything else, and I got like 50 to 60 frames or whatever in 4K, and the 3070 is just not a damn 4K card. It isn't.
Yeah.
But I think that coming forward, all those games are going to be like that. And, you know, once AMD gets their shit together, they're going to be able to put that shit on the consoles. So you might get to a point where your regular vanilla PS5 and your Series X, it's going to get almost like a pro upgrade just from a software.
Just from what
if they could catch up to what NVIDIA's already done. And I think that's, in order to get ray tracing and shit to be worth your time, because it's such a processor hog, you got to have this DLSS shit. It's the new magic, man, and so that might be an actual legit upgrade. So you mesmerized by me, Neo 2. I love this game.
I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, "What is this?"
This is Neo 2. I'm sorry, guys. I'm behind on actually getting it uploaded. I've got to go back and add some shit going down, and actually ended up playing other stuff. But I got to get back to Neo 2. It's freaking great. But.
It's pretty.
Yeah, and you can get Neo, even though that's a Japanese game, it was on for PS4, it does have the DLSS, so you could sit there and I could get that game running and pretty damn good on 4K. Or use the DLSS to get the 120 frames with all the shit on.
Yeah.
So we went through consoles. I don't think, honestly, there's nothing impressive. There's a game called Returnal coming out for Sony. You know about this?
Trying to think. I don't think so.
It looks really good. It has like this almost like super like white bitch, Sigourney Weaver type looking character, except for ginger hair, and she's in an astronaut suit, and she just, it's like a roguelike. It's literally a $70 roguelike, and it's made by the guys who did Resogun. So it's kind of like a bullet hell third-person shooter roguelike, and that's coming out for Sony pretty damn soon. I think it's the end of the month. That might be the first new thing that's interesting. And on PS4, Resogun was the launch game, and that was literally just the left and right shooter. You just kind of went down in a big circle or whatever. But that's literally how behind I think they are. And when we get to Sony, we'll talk about, how they just released a bunch of fucking PlayStation 4 games and said that they're 5 games. It's like, yeah. And,
well, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, everybody that I know that has a PS5, I would ask them, be like, well, how you like that Spider-Man game? And they're like, oh, yeah, the Spider-Man game's good. And it's like, but that's like it. That's like all that they've been playing is the Spider-Man game, because everything else is like, well, I got this. And I'm like, well, wasn't it on PS4? Same way with, like, the Xbox Series X. It's like, they're really just kind of still playing, older games.
The first, well, it's hard to say it's even exclusive because it's on PC Game Pass, but the first actual big Series X game was called, I think it's called The Medium, and it's by the guys who did the Blair Witch game. So it's like in a walking simulator shit.
Yeah.
And hell, I pre-downloaded it, and I was all psyched to play it. And then I'm hearing people talking about it, saying it's shit. I think Angry Joe gave a shit review, and I didn't even play it. I just deleted the shit. I'm like, this is Halo's missing, man.
Yeah. It's like, where's the Halo game?
And who knows if that's going to be 2021. But there's been a lot of, there's no real big games. Freaking Miles Morales is on PS4. There's all this talk about how Resident Evil 8 was, something that could only be done on the next generation. No, it's on fucking PS4. And they just did a damn, like a little demo showing the different ports off. Hits fucking 60 frames on 4K on PS4 Pro. Oh, yeah, that's a PS5 game.
That's a PS5. You won't be able to do this on the PS4.
Yeah, it's bullshit. The RE engine, man, that's great. Those games look great.
Oh, yeah.
And it's heavily optimized for PC, so you can just take that shit, put it in console, turn some shit off, and you're going to get all the frames you want. But, only on the new shit.
New console.
Yeah, bull crap. But speaking of Resident Evil 8, it comes out on the 7th of May, so that's the first big.
That's weeks away.
Yeah, that's probably the first big one, and I gotta get you, pull some moves to get you a copy. We're gonna all share a copy. I'm not too hyped for it though.
I was not a big fan of 7, so I'm automatically not hyped for this one. But it does make me want to go finish 7 just so I can be up to date with what all is going on. I don't know. I had a hard time going to the first person shooter part. I don't know why. I guess because it didn't feel like. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but it just, the first person shooter part, and then also the way it's in it's like in a cabin in the woods. It didn't feel like Resident Evil as opposed to what I felt Resident Evil was at one point. It's like, and I get that they're probably trying to go back more to their roots, but it didn't feel like the same game.
Well, they've soft rebooted. I mean, as you're something that's that old, you need to reboot, especially if you're supposed to have some sort of element of horror into it. It's like there's a point where you can't even get scared when you're literally fighting the same fucking.
Well, at one point it becomes an action game. Yeah. Like after 4, and then, 5 and 6 were basically action shooter games. So I can understand the whole thing of the soft reboot. I really wish they would have done an option for third person view. I don't know why, but for some reason that just feels so different to me. I don't know. I guess because it probably feels more atmospheric with it being first person shooter because you can't really see behind you. But I felt like I was more aware of my surroundings when I was playing the third person version of a Resident Evil game.
And there's elements where they clearly added stuff to try to impress people in PSVR, especially early on. With, some of the cutscenes where they're like you're sitting with a family and they're handing you piles of nasty maggots or whatever the hell it is.
Like, eat this.
Or your hand gets chopped off and shit with that crazy bitch lady at the first part of the game. But I liked it overall. It's still one of the weaker ones as far as compared to other games. The standout to me was there's like an escape room puzzle. I don't want to spoil it for him when you play it, but there's a pretty intricate escape room puzzle. and you have to use the you remember like the VCR from the demo when you put the little VCR in there. Yep, you have to you watch somebody who died through it, and you have to find a way through it. I think I actually ended up using looking up some shit because it was pretty damn intricate for a puzzle. It stood out to me. The later half or maybe the last third of the game isn't too hot. It felt rushed. And of course, while the bosses were all the family members, and it was all intricate and well laid out set pieces or whatever, the damn regular fighting the goo monsters is just unimpressive. And so this looks from what I've seen of 8, there's a lot more regular looking type enemies.
Zombie types.
I definitely get the Victorian or Bloodborne vibes. It has a lot of Bloodborne vibes to it. But have you even seen any of that Reverse yet? That's the add-on for free add-on.
No,
it is shit. It looks like some sort of early 360 game, and it's for what they had in the demo. It was just versus, and I think it's 3-on-3, 6 person versus, or it might have been 6-on-6, but I think it was 3-on-3. And you're like in a modified police station, so they widen all the halls and shit so that players can fight there.
Yeah.
It's like Claire had a machine gun, I think Leon had a shotgun, and there's a couple other characters. And so you're basically in a deathmatch situation. You can roll. You can do like a roll and be invincible. And it looks like a lot of it's trying, if somebody has a shotgun, do almost like a damn Gears type thing where you try to roll out that shit.
Right.
And then once you die, you turn into a big bloated zombie. And you can just run and you can hit them, but the best thing is just like suicide. You kill yourself on them. But what happens is the other person dies too, and then you got 2 exploding suicide zombies running at each other. It's like, who can explode the fastest? This is crap. It looks really bad, generic shit. And they're like, oh, it's free with Resident Evil 8. It's free because no one would buy that shit otherwise. Yeah. And if Resident Evil 8 ends up being short the way 7 or 3 remake is, it's just trying to justify your $70 damn. So it'll be $70.
Well, it's like with 3 remake, they're like, oh, you get, what was it, Resistance, and it was just like, I never even downloaded it. Like I remember, like on Steam, it was like, I don't need this add-on because I'll never touch it. So
yeah, the number 1 selling Capcom game ever is Monster Hunter World. The number 1 selling Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 5. What do they have in common? They have co-op.
Yeah.
And so there's all the talk about how the game's not scary in co-op, but whatever it is, it's like
it was more fun.
You could still have that as some sort of side mode. You could do like Revelations 1 where you had a single player story, and then then you had a multiplayer. So this game will have mercenaries in it. I don't know if you've seen that.
I saw that.
It looks to be single player. They didn't specifically say it's multiplayer, but had it been multiplayer, you know that they would have shown that shit.
Well, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, hot dog, like, multiplayer mercenaries to get. But then I was like, I don't see anything about it that made me think that there was already multiplayer in it.
Yeah, you would go to shop at stores. You would go through areas, and then it'll be like, oh, we'll kill all of the enemies at this time limit in this area. But one of the most important things that I think that makes... So I never played much of 4 Mercenaries, but I played a shit ton of 5. And what really worked at that game was literally, you shoot a guy in the toenail and then you suplex his ass. If you went and killed him that way, you add your time back. Or you would combo with your other person. Or you would like, okay, you run this area and I'll run that area. Or there was I forgot the name of the level, but there was one with all the liquors on it. It was like a tech level. Me and you would literally just sit on some platform and just freaking just camp that shit for the liquors. And that might not have been a high score, but it was enough to get the character. All that shit's not there, so it's like... I guess in Mercenaries, hopefully you would have it where you could unlock characters, but it's almost, if you're in first person, what does that really...
What good does it do?
Yeah, what does
I mean, I guess it'd be weapon loadout, but at the same time, it's just like... I don't know. It just... And Mercenaries single player never appealed to me. Like the Resident Evil 4's Mercenaries, like I played it, but it was like it just single player. It was just kind of like, oh, it's just something they threw in just to make the game longer. And I remember one of the first, I forget if it was on DS or 3DS games I picked up was Resident Evil Mercenaries. But I can't remember if it was on 3DS or DS.
It's 3DS.
It's probably had to
it's
be.
It's a launch 3DS, and the game sucks.
And I was like, oh man, I liked Resident Evil 5, and this has got Mercenaries, but it was like, it just felt like something was missing when you're doing it by yourself because you're fighting against the clock, and which is fine, and that's the whole point of Mercenaries, but like, it was just more fun when you had somebody else that you were like tag teaming with.
Yeah.
And yes, it sucked.
And then, the fact that a lot of people didn't think you could actually beat the Mercenaries. Yeah, at least on 5 and 6, there was an end to it. You could kill 150 guys or whatever it was, and you would end it. Or 151 if you counted the chicken. And if you played it enough, you could get good. And it had like a Crazy Taxi sort of appeal to it where, there's not much here, but what here captivates you to get better and better. And as you play through...
It was just fun because it was pretty action-packed.
Yeah, and then like the characters would bring a lot. So it's like, okay, well, Shiva with that bow would fuck things up, but she wouldn't be able to combo to get the points back. And so you would, try to work together. And you would have blowouts like remember the fucking damn bug thing with the goop?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so it's like,
the insta-kill.
You would kill, I know that there was a Chris with double rocket launchers. Well, that's 2 bugs gone, and so you have to fight 1 bug. Yep. And that's the kind of way you would look at it. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe they put enough time to somehow make that good. I have severe doubts.
It looks like it's just going to be an add-on. Yeah. Just like the Resistance one was. It was like, hey, you get this with it. Great. For my 3-hour game, you threw me this.
Yeah. Well, I'll dabble with it, but...
Yeah, I'll try it, but I'm not expecting much.
Yeah. But that's Resident Evil 8, man. Not expecting much.
Well, they also showed Resident Evil 4 VR, so now you got a reason to play VR, maybe.
No. You don't.
How many times has that game been ported? It was on freaking like the Android phone. I don't know if you remember Resident Evil 4. They took it off the Play Store at some point. I remember one of the first smartphones had like Resident Evil 4, and I'm like, I'm gonna try this. It was god awful. It was like unplayable, but it was like the idea of like, let's try to put this on. Like, it's gonna be like the new Doom. Like, it's gonna be like this refrigerator can play Doom. One day in the future, it'll be like this refrigerator can play Resident Evil 4. It's like, oh yes, it's a calculator. Can it play Resident Evil 4? But it'll sell because it's Resident Evil 4. But I don't expect much.
Sell. First of all, Capcom's fucking they made the Facebook team make the game for them. It sounds like to me, so maybe they didn't have to put any effort into it, but. I think that Resident Evil 7 should not have been locked on PSVR. It should have, even if they had Sony paid for a year, you should have brought that over because any sort of big budget game like that is going to catch people's attention in VR because most of it VR is literally just some small indie shit or Beat Saber. It's like the same fucking games over and over again.
Nothing that's going to require a lot of time. VR is just, to me, is not meant for long periods of play.
Yeah. But that Star Wars Rogue...
Yeah, the new Rogue
Team or whatever.
Pretty good.
Yeah, you could play that in VR with a hot setup. So the full-on thing. I played a little bit of... There was came with a Rift. It was called Eve. It wasn't Eve. It was Eve Valkyrie, I think it was called. That game was designed to be a damn... DLC microtransaction fucking multiplayer game on VR, which is stupid to launch with your VR and make that your launch game. That was dumb. But I played through and there was like a single player segment where you could just fly through the asteroids and shit, and I didn't get too sick from that. Amazing enough, it was supposed to be intense as far as their rating, but
you think it's because it was in space and it was a lot of black?
It was in space. You kind of felt like you were flying as opposed to walking or whatever.
There's like no sense of like ground probably. Yeah. Whereas like in a lot of VR games, there's like you have a sense of ups and downs and lefts and rights, but in space it probably alleviates a lot of that.
But, so I got a feeling that probably people played the hell out of that Rogue game in VR and had fun with it. So it's probably stuff like that. Maybe the driving games are pretty dang fun to do that. You just don't have any feeling of G-force or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Capcom could have been kind of at the forefront of VR, but having a new game that's also in VR as opposed to like something like Doom, which Doom comes out and then there's some standalone fake Doom thing that they put in VR.
They threw in there.
Yeah, where you're kind of standing in one spot shooting at guys, and it's an experience, and it's like that's what they're not committed to doing anything, and so. But being stuck seemingly on the Quest 2 probably isn't good. The Quest 2 sells a lot. I don't know if that's outdoing the Index or not. I don't know the price of it, honestly.
Is it $299?
You think it's that cheap?
The Quest 2?
Yeah.
I want to say it's $299. It might be $399. Okay. I could be wrong. It's one of the two. Because I know somebody that has one. It's standalone, and I think that's what appeals to a lot of people. But also, it's like back in the day of having a gaming desktop versus a laptop. It's only going to be able to be so powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're playing a bunch of tech demos, it's probably...
Or just Beat Saber or something
Beat
like
Saber.
that.
If you're just playing standard stuff, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have cables running across the room. And I assume you still have to do the sensors with Quest 2, but I don't know.
It might be smart enough where you can just kind of... I don't know. Well, I'm assuming that you could sort up a room for that. Or it might just be smart enough, the original Vibe had a freaking damn Predator damn camera that you could turn on to see in VR, because it's one of the things that's like, I had the original Rift and I put that shit on, you're blind. I could see a little bit down the edge of my nose to see some kind of light.
Yeah.
That would be it. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where I think that, Capcom themselves would not have done it, but they'll take the bag of money.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you want to do this? And,
you can be exclusive.
Yeah, here you go, because ain't nobody else going to
Because I was talking about, it's like, I don't know much of what Oculus has is exclusive. There you go. I doubt it's going to be Half-Life Alyx, but hell, the Quest 2 probably plays Half-Life Alyx, so I bet you
it probably does.
Yeah. But that's our Resident Evil news. I don't give a fuck about any of the movies coming out. Maybe that TV series with the Weskers or whatever. It's just kids. That's a long way out.
That's a long way out. I think the next thing is Netflix in September. I think has the new CGI movie or whatever that's coming out.
I didn't watch the last one.
They're all forgettable. Every one of them. I think they made 3 of them, and I honestly can't remember. I think there was 3 of them, and I can't remember which one was which. I remember one being in an airport.
That's the first one.
And and it had Claire in it and Leon. The second one was Leon and had like the Mr. X's. There was like 100 Mr. X's.
Yeah.
And some dude that controlled liquors. And then the third one, the only thing I remember about it is Chris and Leon fighting in a hallway and doing like gun fu the whole fucking time. That's all I remember about the whole movie. I don't remember anything else except that. And like Leon riding on a motorcycle and damn John wicking his ass through like a street or something. I couldn't tell you anything. I couldn't even tell you the name of the Resident Evil movie. I just remember that stuff.
I think they have filmed the remake non-Paul Anderson movie. I think it's in post-production. I'm not interested in that shit either. But the story was it's supposed to be combined. I think it says Welcome to Raccoon City or something. And it's supposed to combine the story of 1 and 2, which is too much to get going on.
That's a lot going on.
Unless you completely ignore... You can completely ignore the most of the story in 1. Maybe get that... You can just...
shovel that in.
Yep.
And just concentrate on 2.
No Sherry, no Barry. I mean, not Sherry, but what's her fucking name? The short hair.
Jill.
Not Jill. Jill better be in that. You would think Jill would be. Well, hell, they might not have Jill in that. Just fucking get rid of Jill too. Get rid of Chris. Get rid of Chris. Yeah. So it's Leon and Claire. With 15 minutes.
Or just make up a whole new character and call her something else, and then just be that the cornerstone of your franchise.
Call her Wonderland.
Yeah, Wonderland.
It's Mrs. Wonderland.
Did you ever finish watching the Wes Anderson ones? Me and Elizabeth got on this thing where we watched them. Like, we went through them, and they were coming out as they were finishing up the last 2, and we would watch one, and it was amazing at how worse. Everyone like exponentially got worse. By the last one, it just became so laughable. Like, this is just dog shit. And you'd be like, how can it be worse than the last? And you'd be like, they figured it out. I mean, it was so goddamn crazy by the time where it's like you get to the very end and there's like old fucking Alice, and it's like they were cloning her or something. It's like so convoluted and ridiculous. And
yeah, there's that famous clip of Red Letter Media with Chris Evans, Rich Evans, who has definitely played the game and knows it, but even to see, a real Wesker acting out as, a fucking Matrix retard, and how stupid it is, and they're just laughing out loud for like 5 minutes straight. It's like, I think I made it through the third one, which was the one in the desert. I might be wrong on which
that
one
one was
is.
bad.
Yeah.
That one was really bad. Where basically Alice at this point had become a Jedi or something like that. It was just like, and then there was one where like she lost her powers, and then immediately in the first like 5 seconds of the next movie they gave them all back to her or something like that. And then it was like you couldn't keep up with what she could do. It was like whatever the plot needed her to do, that's what she was able to do.
Yeah, the only Paul Anderson movie the first Resident Evil has a tolerance of okay.
It's all downhill after that,
Yeah,
literally. Like, the first one is watchable, and then it's like, it just kind of, they all exponentially just get worse afterward. And you're just like to the point where, well, I see this person looks like Ada. They're wearing the Ada dress. Okay, this guy kind of has a Leon haircut. I think they called him Leon in 0.5 seconds of the movie. And there's like, this guy looks like he might be Barry, but maybe his name is Jerry. We don't know. So it's like,
or Gary.
Yeah. It's like, you don't really know. You can see like, and then they don't even focus on those fucking characters at all. Like, they're just background characters to whatever else is going on. And you're like, why'd you even bother? So
that people could say this is actual Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And the first one, there was the Hispanic girl was fucking awesome. I thought the shit where they
bring her back.
I'm sure they do.
And it's weird. It's like, I don't even remember how they bring her back because she dies. They bring her back and like she doesn't know who the fuck Alice is because she's like a clone or some shit. And then she turns evil like Jill, because they do have Jill in it where she has the fucking chest thing on her chest. But they all fucking are like Tony Jaa fucking, beating the fuck out of each other. It's fucking crazy. And then at some point I think she like, I don't even remember if she remembers who she is or not. It's like they brought her back just so they could say they brought back the character from the first one.
Yeah, I like that. Her, I like the Red Queen, or having this hidden lab underneath. I think that's almost done better than the goofy shit where Resident Evil would have where we're in a haunted house with zombies, but we have to have a reason. We have to have a reason that these are just keep doing these mansions. Yep. The Spencer Mansion, yet again for the 40th time.
It's the Batcave underneath.
Yep. And honestly, Resident Evil 7, that the main hall, the main room, it's fucking just might as well be a mansion. You might as well have the crawl kid through. And I don't know if it has the spiral staircases. Might as well been in Resident Evil 7. But you just can't get around it, man. You can't get around it.
It's got to be 2 stories, and it's got to have a big open room.
Yeah, the only Paul Anderson movie I liked, and it's still not good, was Event Horizon. I don't know if you ever saw that.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. It had Morpheus in it, and then
Cowboy Curtis.
Not Cowboy Curtis. It had Grant from Jurassic Park in it. Whoever those guys are.
Sam Hill.
And it was freaking just Hellraiser in space is what it was. You're like, where's Pinhead at? Freaking Grant's Pinhead in this shit. And it was a decently long movie, but they had so much shit they wanted to do. It's just
crammed it all.
Yeah, crammed it all in, and then there's supposed to be a bunch of extra shit here on the side that got lost in a salt mine or some crazy. It's freaking. We've lost the Anderson cut. It's gone.
I remember like renting that back in the day and watching it and being like, I didn't really even understand what was all going on, and it's like I don't think I've gone back to watch it since.
Yeah, I do like where it's not like a Star Wars or Star Trek where it's like far in the future. It's like somewhat almost like it could be. Interstellar had that sort of vibe to it,
where it's like kind of, sort of, a little bit.
Yeah, and there's some. I don't know if it was Jupiter Ascending. There's some stuff movies out there like that. I love that kind of almost a realistic kind of look to it. But it keeps that to the beginning, and then it goes to fucking bizarro world.
Kind of like The Martian. The Martian was kind of like, it's a little bit like, they were all on.
Don't spoil that to me. I haven't seen it. That was Matt Damon, right? Yeah.
The book was really good. That when I first started getting into audiobooks, I would listen to them at work, and that was one of the first big audiobooks I listened to. And it was like, and then when they announced the movie, I'm like, this will be freaking awesome. And it's pretty damn good. It's close. Like, it's close to the book. They take out stuff that was unnecessary. It's not like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, where if you read the book and you watch the movie and you're like, they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
Like, to the point of like, there's like, because I liked the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie, just as silly as it was. I thought it was entertaining. But the book was like, well, you can't really compare it to the book because, like, I don't even know if there's any of the same character. There might be one character in that book that crossed over to that movie, but that was about, it was just not, it wasn't the same. Now, there is an Abraham Lincoln zombie movie. Is
that recent?
I don't know how recent it is. On the Roku channel, if you ever go through that Roku channel, they have all those weird ass channels, and I'll get bored and I'll start going through there. And there was one, it was like Abraham Lincoln versus vampires or something, and it's like, I think they filmed it on like 25 cents in an iPhone. It is fucking damn cheesy as shit, but it's like they're like wandering around and he's with a group and they're like, it's like basically Abraham Lincoln Walking Dead, and it is. Like one of those, like, I'm gonna have to come back. I had to go to work because I was like, I was wasting time in the morning before I left, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to find this and come back and watch it one day. It looks so damn ridiculous.
Yeah, I love them shit movies. Every year I try to get my friend Jason a shit movie. Been pretty freaking successful so far.
Sometimes it's fun to watch them, like JFK Badass or what? No, not It was FDR Badass. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
It's a wheelchair.
It was with the machine guns on the wheelchair, and it's so goddamn stupid, but it's funny. It's fun to watch because it's like, just something different. Like if you've been watching something serious for a while and then you watch that and you're just like, it's a good palate cleanser.
And it's hard to know because those know they're campy and know they're bad, and it's the key is. I think sometimes the key is to not know that you're bad. Sometimes you can pull it off. Sometimes you can pull it off that they're freaking bizarre movie, and sometimes you just fall face first, and it's like, wow, this is shit. Which in its own way can be
funny as hell.
Too. Yeah,
like The Room.
Yeah, you make
the Room, like that guy. Tommy Wiseau, he thought he was doing masterpiece, I'm sure, and you watch it and you're just like, this is goddamn horrible, but it's like watching a train wreck. You can't stop watching. It's like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh, hi, doggy.
Yeah. You're my favorite customer. It's just goddamn stupid. It's like, that guy was like, he didn't realize he was like.
He looks like a super villain, but he's playing the nice character, and he's all like super ripped up and shit.
They want to see my ass in this shot.
Well, they're going to see it fucking 3 times in the first 5 minutes, and we're going to have a double fuck scene right to get go to get you started.
It's just that. It's like you could tell like that wasn't made to be funny. That's not Evil Dead. We're not making this like with the idea of like, oh, we're going to laugh at ourselves. Like he thought like this is going to be serious. We're going to take this real serious and real slow, and we got 45 minutes to film this whole movie and $20.
Yeah, I started watching the I can't remember the guy who did the who was a big Wusu fan, who he was in the freaking damn old Spider-Man movies. I forgot his damn name now, but he starred as Wusu in these like just like almost it's like the official Hollywood remake of the freaking the life story.
The life story.
And it was like I was just ready to watch The Room, honestly. I just watch it. It was one of those things where he's catching the vibe, and there's always the kind of the mysteries like where did he get all this money from, and is it the Russian mob and all that good shit. But yeah, I've watched it a couple of times. I think I need to get an official copy. I guess we'll pay him for his travesty that he's unleashed upon the world. But But yeah, shit movies like that, man. And then Red Letter Media has what's called the best of the worst, and of course Mystery Science Theater, which they need another run.
season of that.
Yeah,
I like that last one.
I haven't heard anything in a couple of years, so I don't know. Maybe it was only going to be just 2 seasons, but
I don't know. It's hard to say with like the whole way COVID hit. Maybe there were like, I bet you there was a lot of things pre-COVID that were like on the docket of like we're working toward this, and then when that hit, a lot of that stuff just got put on pause before it even got announced. You know, I'm sure there was a lot. It's funny now you start to see all these trailers for all these movies that just got pushed back. Like there's like the new Fast and Furious trailer. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot they filmed that like 2 years ago.
Or Black Widow.
Black Widow's been pushed back again.
I think, well, maybe I'm wrong. I thought Jurassic World 3 is due. I don't know if they actually started filming it. They might have just quit.
I don't know. I know Stranger Things, I think they're still filming it. It's like those kids are going to be freaking like, you know.
They're going to be 25 years old. We're going to do them
well, there was like one of them, I forgot who it was. One of them was like just celebrated like their 18th birthday or some shit, and it was one of the kids. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, by the time the next season comes out, they're going to be like, you know, it's going to be like It Chapter 2, and except for they're going to use the same actors.
They'll CG the kids down.
Yeah. They'll young their ass out.
They'll de-age them.
De-age yourself down, man.
I mean, the third season was fucking
it was great.
Great.
That was what was so funny is like I did not watch any of it until the third season, and the third season came out, and everybody was like, "Oh, you'd like it." And my daughter was already up to date on it. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's fun." So I sat down and watched the third season with her, and I'm like, "Oh, this was really good." And she's like, "Yeah, you should probably watch the first 2 so you know what the fuck's going on." So I went back and watched the first 2, and I'm like, "Oh, I do like this show." And I'm like, "When's the next one come out?" And she's like, "Well, you know, they usually wait like a year or 2 in between." I'm like, God damn, a year or 2.
You got them all back to back once you fucking just splurged in. Hell, you got the reverse Steve arc, man. You get to see Steve become the villain.
Yep. It was crazy, man. It's like, because I remember watching season 3 at the end, and spoilers, it's like, you know, Hopper like basically dies at the end of it supposedly, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy, I didn't think much about him. You go back and watch season 1 and 2, you're like, God damn it, they killed fucking Hopper. It's like, because you didn't have no attachment to any of the characters not seeing the first 2 seasons. It's like, oh, well, now I miss it. And apparently, it's funny, they released that teaser, you know, like, God, what was it like it's been a year, it's been at least a year since they released that teaser of him being in Russia, so you automatically know, well, yeah, he's still alive. But I wonder
I've only seen it once when it came out, but the way that was handled, where it's like you knew that they weren't. First of all, they weren't kill him because he's so lovable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's your Joel.
Yeah, well, we'll hit that Sony shit. What we'll do is we'll close this one off and then do a Sony podcast and bitch about that.
But that was kind of like, he was kind of like your Joel, you know. Man. I liked him.
They've got enough characters going on that they could start killing off some more. But I don't think you couldn't kill the 4 main kids. You can't kill Elle. You might could kill the ginger girl.
Possibly.
Yeah, and then
you
can't kill Winona Ryder.
No,
it would be.
You might could kill Lucas off. I don't know. It'd be hard to kill some of the main kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could. You could do anything you want to, but
yeah, but it would be in the Star Wars episode.
Yeah.
Apparently, well, they have now made, or they're going to formulate the Abrams cut for, because you know you could sell your movies over. You can sell the movie over again.
You want a 7-hour cut of fucking damn, you know.
Well, I think we talked about it. Is like there was enough shit there. You could just have choose your own ending.
Yeah,
kind of shit.
We did this and we did this.
And
that's like I was seeing something online about like there being a in-game cut that's like 6 hours long of like Avengers Endgame, and I was like, you know what? I would probably watch that just to see what was all got cut out. Which I think they've released all the deleted scenes at this point, so I don't know what it would add, but like. It'd be interesting. That movie was interesting enough that I would watch more of it just to see what it is. Now, the Justice League movie, that fucker's 4 hours long. And the whole time I'm watching it, all I can think is, I would have cut this, I would have cut that. There would be scenes where you're just like, this is fucking useless. Why is this here? Which I get why he did it. He got his opportunity to release his fucking... It's like, why not? I would have released every fucking second of it I had too. But as a watcher, you're like, why are we fucking still holding in on this shot? Why are these little kids singing to fucking Aquaman that swam off in the ocean? Just stupid shit, you know? Like, why would you even have it in the movie? Like, why was it even written to be in the movie?
I think Superman ain't too hot. I watched Batman vs. Superman, which was okay to start with a terrible, atrocious ending. And I'm like, why should I give a fuck?
You know what's interesting is Ben Affleck got shit for that as like his Batman, but I thought he did a damn good Batman. I liked him as Bruce Wayne. I liked Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I thought both of them were great. I mean, arguably the best scene in Batman v Superman is him going to save, you know, the whole Martha scene, going to save her in the warehouse.
Yeah, where he just annihilates motherfuckers. It's just...
I mean, it's just like, it was good. I liked that part. I was like, give me a whole movie of that shit. I'll take that.
Well, they were thinking about it, but now we're gonna get the vampire guy. Now, you know what? Let's see. Before I cast it, you know, the Twilight Batman is shit. I've only seen the first trailer to that, but
is that the one where he's beating the shit out of the one dude?
He's beating the shit out of one guy. The other guys are watching like, what the fuck?
It looks interesting. I don't like the costume, but maybe I didn't really care for the costume of Batman Begins either until I saw it in the film, and then I kind of liked it. And I really liked the Dark Knight costume. You know, when you changed it halfway through the movie, he's like, oh, you won't be able to turn your head around. I thought that was a great, because it was a tactical Batman outfit, and it was kind of grounded in real life. So it's like, yeah, he would have a battle suit, you know. The dark shots of the suit of the new one, the head looks stupid with the ears. But, like, if you see it in film and you see it, like, the way it might look different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It might look better.
What's the villain supposed to be? I forgot. Is it the Riddler?
I think it's the Riddler. Okay. I could be wrong.
This would be a great time, and they did hints of this in the Dark Knight, but to pull in the whole detective shit, because the animated comic book did a real good job.
Yeah, he was a detective. Yeah. It's like he was a detective first and a crime fighter.
Yeah.
And they did it briefly in the Dark Knight, you know, where he's matching up the bullet and all that shit. They basically just ignored all of it in Dark Knight Rises. It would be interesting to see him more of like, you know, a detective type person.
Yeah. No origins. We don't need a Batman origin.
No, I don't need to see freaking, you know, Ma and Pa, you know, Wayne get fucking shot in the alley. No, I don't give a shit. I mean, you know, I wasn't even crazy about it as a kid when they turned Joker into the person that killed his parents, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, that's trying to it's too on the nose, you know. Like,
yeah, as a kid, I didn't know otherwise, so.
And the only reason I knew as a kid is because I'd read comic books, and I'm like, that ain't fucking Joe Chill. Joe Chill ain't the fucking Joker. And people would be like, shut up, man. He's like, Joker killed his parents, and I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, what do I know? I'm in like third grade. It's like,
yeah.
It's like Spider-Man. I don't need to see the fucking kid bit by the spider anymore.
A million times.
I loved it in Civil War where he's like, see, this accident happened and Tony Stark just kind of cuts him off. Yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. I thought that was perfect because we didn't need to see that shit. Everybody fucking knows he gets bit by the spider. Everybody knows fucking Batman's parents get killed, you know?
Yeah, I think The Boys shows you that we're not sick of superheroes per se. We're sick of the official Marvel style origin story build up to having a buddy team.
Just throw it in there. Just get right to the chase.
Yeah,
you know,
we've done. You're at a point where he has to be oversaturated, and there will be the big disaster sooner or later where they've spent $1 bazillion and it doesn't do anything. People thought that was going to be Mrs. Marvel. Nope, not yet.
Nope.
Whether they could do, I forgot what all they were calling, you know, the next set of the cinematic universe. Whether they could do all that stuff, you know.
It's when they're in phase 4 right now. When you start hitting phase 5 or 6, it'll be interesting. What's going to be interesting is when they start replacing characters. Like, obviously, they're already doing that with Captain America. It's like, and I like Falcon, and I like the whole him being Captain America. And I like what they're doing in the Winter Soldier storyline stuff. That's pretty cool. But like when you start bringing out at some point you'll have another Iron Man. Like because in the comics they had a girl that was Iron Man and all that, and they'll do that. That's when it's going to start. Well, it's like, well, this ain't fucking Robert Downey Jr. shit. You know, it'll get weird.
The problem, yeah, of course, is it really Iron Man himself? Because no one gave a fuck about Iron Man until Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
that's like people were like, because I liked Iron Man as a kid because I liked I always liked robotic suits and cyborgs as a kid. Like I love Terminator. I love fucking Gizmo Duck from DuckTales because he had the fucking suit that would come to him. And, I mean, I like that shit like that. So I was an Iron Man fan, and I would always be like, oh, man, I wish they'd make an Iron Man movie. But I knew that they would never make it because, one, he wasn't fucking Spider-Man or an X-Man. But also, the technology just was not there. So when they released the trailer for Iron Man, I went and saw that, like, early. That was, like, I went and got tickets. They had, like, it opened up on a Friday night, and I got the tickets to go see it like an early release on like a Tuesday night one night because I was so excited for that movie. And even then people were like, "Oh yeah, he's Marvel," but nobody fucking knew. Like everybody knew he's Marvel, but he was not fucking Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Wolverine, none of that shit.
Yeah.
So,
of course, they've rebooted Wolverine so many times.
What do you do with Wolverine now? It's like you have to get a new actor, but the problem is if
he's iconic as what's his name?
I mean that's fucking Wolverine at this point. Dude's played Wolverine since like what 1999, damn near 20 years. Whenever Logan came out, being the last one, and I'm not 100% certain that we won't see him show up as Wolverine in a Deadpool movie or some form of something. Just because I could see him coming back and making a cameo of like in Deadpool 3 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the Fox Studios has ruined the movie X-Men. I was never particularly impressed by the '90s versions, and so
they were very hit and miss. The first X-Men movie I was excited for, but it really wasn't great. It was okay. It was fine. For a comic book movie, it was probably really good because,
they were shit.
They were shit. I mean, we had Captain America, and I remember watching that old Captain America movie in the 90s. That was a god-awful fucking movie with Ned Beatty in it. It was fucking terrible. Blade had came out. Blade was, like, the first one of, like, holy shit, this is kind of awesome. I don't know if you remember watching Blade when it first came out.
Oh, well, no, everybody thought Blade was cool.
That was fucking awesome as shit. And it was like, this is what they fucking need to do. No more of this damn Batman and Robin bullshit. And then X-Men came out, and it was good, but it wasn't great. But it had a nice build-up at the end of it where, like, it's Xavier and what's his name, Ian McKellen's talking, and he's like, what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about, who's going to come knocking on your door? And he's like, oh, I feel a great deal of pity for anybody that does that. And you like, oh, fuck yeah. And then when the second one came out, they released a trailer, and sure fucking enough, they had people breaking into that mansion. And the second one, to me, for a long time, was like the best comic book movie because it was just... And you can still go back and watch it, and it's still pretty good,
yeah.
But it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I've seen it on TBS, which is not the same fucking thing, but...
But once they did 3 was god-awful. Origins was fucking terrible. First Class was actually pretty decent. It was better. I think it's because by the time First Class came out, I didn't expect anything. And it was like, oh, this was actually pretty well done.
And doing it in that's the 60s one, right?
Yep.
50s or 60s?
No. Yeah, that was like the 60s. When they had all the new characters, it was the new,
and they did the old retro uniforms.
The old
it's almost like a cross or something.
Yeah,
yellow cross. I can't
the
remember
blue
exactly.
and yellow. It was like, and like I said, I think it was because everybody was like, well, these are all new actors. Like, how good can it be? And it was actually pretty decent. Days of Future Past, I really did like. That to me was one of the best ones they ever did.
And then I heard that I don't know if they just call it Apocalypse. Another one
Age
of Apocalypse is
Apocalypse
supposed to be god awful.
It's fucking terrible. There's like one good scene. There's a couple of scenes in it that are basically fan service. They did another scene of Quicksilver, which was fucking awesome. It was better than arguably better than the one in Days of Future Past, where he's like running around with an 80s song playing in the background. That was pretty cool. And then they had a Wolverine scene where he's Weapon X, and that was just nothing but fan service. That's all it was.
Yeah.
The actual the movie itself was shit. And then I have yet to watch the Dark Phoenix one, the last one they did. The one after the studio had already basically been sold, and they still had it coming out.
Just trying to crank out.
They were cranking out one last one, and I didn't even watch it, but from everything I saw, it was like, this is one bother.
We're so over Dark Phoenix, because back in the day, every time I tried to catch the original 90s one, the cartoon on show, this was always part of Dark Phoenix arc, freaking 3 or 4, and I would not have any context.
Context to what was going on.
You get tired of, why are we in outer space and stupid shit like that?
Who the fuck is this guy, and why is he Cyclops' daddy?
Yeah. I think it popped up on Netflix or something, and I watched the whole thing through series. I'm like, that's awesome shit. Hell, and Apocalypse had, although he was always the Saturday morning cartoon villain, he had some great freaking damn lines.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah.
I liked him in the cartoon, where he's like, it's like he didn't consider himself a mutant at all. He was like, like he was almost like he had like a god complex.
Yeah.
And his powers in movies, like, it was going to be hard to, first off, he looked like fucking Ivan Ooze in that movie. He looked stupid. But also, like, his powers were going to be hard to do in that kind of movie. Like, he was very much like, he could, like, change his fucking shapes and shit and, like, hit you with a fucking hammer fist or some shit out of nowhere. And it was very weird. And, but no, that 90s cartoon was great. I mean, even in the third season, I think it was the third, fourth season when they changed animators, it kind of got a little wonky, but it was still pretty damn good.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just, I'm always suspect about comic book movies. But The Boys was fucking good.
Yep.
And then I think that Batman was always my favorite one. But I just think that, fuck the origin stories.
It's not necessary at this point.
And fucking even like, we're trying to make it authentic to the comic book. Even that's a trite trope these days. Just, make your own standalone shit. Don't make a damn cinematic derp piece. And if your movie is good as itself being good, then you'll have something to go with.
Yeah.
They're one of those counting your chickens before your egg baskets are hatched or whatever.
Well, it's kind of like the whole DC universe, man. They freaking were like, they were so much at the point of DC. What Avengers was already out at that point, right?
Yeah.
When they were like, oh fuck, we got to play catch up. So they're like, we got a Superman movie, and instead of making Superman 2, we're going straight into Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice League. It's like, we're gonna work our ass backwards, which kind of could work if done right, but that movie sucked. I mean, you could have freaking, because when you go back and watch the Phase 1 movies of Marvel, and you're like, that first Avengers movie, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it was fine. It was not Iron Man 1. It wasn't, the first Captain America movie or whatever. It was fine. And same with Avengers 2. Avengers 2 was not great. Civil War was arguably, like, at the point when it came out, probably the best Avengers movie, even though it wasn't an Avengers movie because it had all of them in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing I think that's what they need to do, is they need to start tag teaming some, like in the comics, you would have fucking Thor show up somewhere and be like, or Hulk would show up in an Iron Man comic book, and why not do that? Tag team. I don't need to see a standalone Hulk movie. I mean, I don't think that character grants a standalone Hulk movie at this point.
They'd already done 2, right?
Yeah, and they
Ang Lee did the first one. He did
the Eric Bana one. That was garbage.
Yeah, I think he's a hit and miss, but he did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is one of my favorite movies ever. And I've never seen Brokeback Mountain, but people love Brokeback Mountain. And I'm trying to think what other shit he's done. But it's like almost like, okay, so he's kind of like this avant-garde.
He's got a style.
Yeah, and
in that first Hulk movie has a style. Like, it has a comic book style. It wasn't great, but it wasn't. And I think Universal owned that. Can they even do a standalone Hulk movie? I know they own the character, but I don't even know if they own. I think that's Universal tied. I don't know. I forget how that one works. Because it's also mixed in with the whole, like Fox and Sony type deal. I think that might be Universal. But
so a character like that, even say more than Captain America, was already an icon.
It was established. You didn't need to.
You didn't.
I didn't need to see him
movie.
Get fucking damn beta raid thing. All that.
Because you had the TV show. For Captain America, I knew who he was, but I really didn't become like a fan or whatever until Marvel versus Street Fighter versus literally
Yeah.
on PlayStation. But it was one of those. He was in that X-book, the X-Men. No, wait, it might have even been the X-Men. What was it? The freaking one where they're in high school. That might have had Captain America in it as a side thing with Wolverine.
He was in an episode of the '90s X-Men.
Oh, it was in the '90s one?
There was a '90s X-Men episode where Wolverine and him are going into a thing, and it was like pre-Claws Wolverine, like before he had his adamantium, and it was like they were on a mission. I don't remember if the high school and if he was in it or not. He might. I watched that show and didn't mind it, but I didn't watch all of it. I missed a lot of that show.
It's pretty good. I particularly like how Rogue was on the bad team.
Yeah.
And she's like, emo or whatever. I've always liked
she
Rogue.
was always kind of like, she was, not originally a hero anyway.
Yeah.
And you could understand from her point of view of like, yeah, fuck these people because, she kind of got the shit end of the stick on powers, like some of them did. Like she had great powers, but like, you wouldn't necessarily want them, like, it's kind of like, oh, it'd be cool to be Cyclops or Wolverine. You wouldn't want to be fucking Beast.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if you was to maybe do an X-Men, maybe you would do them kind of separate like that. I don't know, because you've already did them as a team. Hell, of course, if I'm saying like this, what would happen is that we're going to build a cinematic universe and then make them to form the team. It's like, oh, God. But
yeah,
something
in like 10 years, you'll have the fucking team.
I heard there was supposed to be a Gambit movie. There was for a while. That would have been great, just as a standalone.
Yeah, as a Gambit, because they were talking about getting the guy that played Gambit in, God, what's his name? He played, Gambit in Origins, and that movie was shit. At least he was thrown into that movie anyway. It wasn't like he was necessary. They were like, we need a plot A to plot B, and it's like, it'd be cool if we threw Gambit in here, and that's all they did. Yeah. I can't even remember his name. He's famous, but yeah, I mean, I would watch the Gambit movie.
I'm more impressed by the X-Men characters than the Avenger characters.
Yeah,
in my opinion, and that comes from when we grew up with that 90s cartoon.
It was the fucking 90s, man. Because like that was it. It was X-Men. Spider-Man was kind of there, but X-Men was like the big thing.
They would bring, the kids would bring the comic books to class. No one gave a fuck about Superman.
Nope.
The Batman was literally the movies and the actual cartoon. I think the comic books no one particularly cared, but that's X-Men comics were.
They were hot commodities, man.
Yeah, they were hot. But hey, man, we went off a hell of a side tangent.
But side tangent of like shitty movies to other movies that aren't as shitty, but still kind of shitty.
So we'll take a break here.